So here's the first one we did with just a simple cylinders recipe. So if I select on that and we export it just like we did with when we put it into Mixamo, I'm going to put it into the other one. So I'm just throw this up on my desktop for a moment. And you could do FBX on there. You could do OBJ. Either one's fine. We'll call this my biped underscore 01. And same thing, everything's off here. Geometry is on, but the animation, cameras, lights, audio's off, and we leave on embedded media. So usually it's just the geometry and the media, which is the texture maps, if any, that are on there. We then hop over to the human image plane, the biped recipe for the human base that has the image planes in it. And we go File and we import, and I'm going to grab it off of the desktop here. Should be pretty easy to find. There's my biped FBX import, and voila, we should have the biped in there. And I'm not sure which layer it put it on by default. Looks like it may have put it on a different layer. So when I brought it in, it did bring in the second biped layer with FBX, which is Autodesk File Format Interchange. So you can use FBX, it goes into Unreal, it goes between Maya and 3D Studio Max, and you'll notice under File you have Export, Send to 3D Studio Max, Send to Unity, Send to Unreal. These they've worked on over the years. I don't trust most of them. They've been so buggy over the years, I just quit using them and just keep it with FBX or OBJ. So we have that on there, and the image plane we were using was this first one. So now I can go in here and size this up a little bit. We can still double check. So we could go create polygon primitive to cylinder settings box and tell it, well, let's make a 160 centimeter high cylinder and see if this is actually the height we want. And you could tell right there, yeah, the image plane is a little bit big. So no problem. We'll just kind of go with it for now. It's easier than changing all the image planes. At this point, I thought I had it sized right, but I guess I was off by just a little bit. So we size that up and go into X-ray mode for just a moment and make sure that as we're scaling this, we're doing it uniformly using this middle portion here. We want to get the neck and the shoulders and the head roughly correct and start moving things around just a little bit. So we'll go in here to the crotch region first. That's probably going to be the most problematic. Yeah, it's a bit of a long torso. Some people have longer torso, shorter legs. We're just going with the average to make it a little bit easier on ourselves. So if we grab all of these, marquee drag across the front, go to the move tool, double check, have my tool settings on with symmetry open so I can go on and off. And indeed, it's on Object X. Have my tool settings here. So you can see symmetry Object X is mirrored here. So if I turn it off there, it's going to turn it off there as well. So whatever works for you. There's, so many different ways to go through things in Maya. So I want to grab actually this whole mess right here and that one as well. And I'm going to bring them up a little bit. And what I noticed here is I may have a little bit too many edge loops. If this needs to come up a bit, I might be starting to crowd the edge loops in the torso. We want to keep them mostly evenly spaced. So I'm going to go up here to an edge above it and just going to double click that edge, control backspace. It's going to delete the edge as well as all the vertices that were attached to it. Go back to vertex mode. Make sure I grab everything there that I need. Go into X-ray mode if you're not sure. And again, make sure your shading has wireframe on shaded, Alt 5. And bring this so that the crotch goes all the way up to the midsection. And you see it's still, wow, I'm surprised it's that high up. So it's still going up and crowding the vertices up above. So just double click that one, control backspace, go back into vertex mode. Everyone's going to be a little different here. So it's okay. There we go. Yeah, that works. So now he has this like great big boxy torso in proportion to the legs, which is pretty funny. And now we can grab the legs here. Now we want symmetry on and can bring those in. So, and we can grab all the vertices here across the torso. That. And so what you're going to do is you're going to, and you can turn, if you're grabbing both sides, you can turn symmetry off. You just might have to reselect everything a couple times. And if you're not able to see through the image plane clearly, if you're not sure, just turn that off. We don't want these edge loops, the nice flat round ones just yet. So I'm taking all of these, make sure you grab all of those as well, and just scaling everything in. There we go. So this should be pretty chill. Try and keep your edge loops mostly straight-ish. You're going to curve them all into some sort of arcs as you go. But for right now, I would say just keep things relatively straight for now, and we'll kind of adjust as we go. Let's grab the kneecap image over, or edge loop over here. So we turn symmetry back on object X. Grab these, go to my move tool, bring it up to about the middle of the kneecap. It should be fine. Grab this one here, put it right dead center. Right now, we're going to insert edge loops here as we go. Middle of the calf, that should be okay. And we do have the feet in here. And we can start now as we're adjusting these. Might as well bring them in, scale them in just a little bit as you go, and starting to actually match up to the silhouette of the anatomy just a little bit. Ankles, marquee drag across. You can go to a 4 viewport and hit F on the keyboard as you go. You need to. I'm just going to stay in the perspective view for now. So that's the back, that's the front, making sure we're right. And bringing that across. And you can see the curvature of from the calves. So as I pointed out, the outer part of the calf's higher than the inner part's lower. We're going to simulate some of that with the as we move the edge loops around, but don't worry about that too much right this second. Let's just kind of get this close. It looks like maybe the image plane might be off a little bit. So I'm going to stick to the left-hand side for down here. Looks like it's okay. Yep. There's the ankle right there. And much more narrower from the front view than it is from the side view. But as you come around here, you can see it's a bit wider than it is from the front view. And then the foot, I'm not going to worry about too much as well. Right now, we don't have a good side view for the foot yet. However, what you can do is go to the channels layer, turn on the side view right here. There we go. And now you can see, indeed, we do want to bring it back. So there's an S curve. There's a backward lean for the thigh. The thigh comes out, curves forward here, and then curves back again, brings out across the calf. So let's go ahead and capture that now. And we'll bring that back just a little bit. Grab the kneecap, bring that back a little, grab the calf, scale it, bring it back. And just kind of pushing these around just a bit to match them up to the image plane. And you see I got, it's got a little bit messy in here. I'll show you how to use the relax tool and some other tools as we go. For the arm, what we can do is grab from right here. And same thing we did earlier with the cylinders, hold down the D key, which moves your pivot. It moves the pivot temporarily as well for the selection. So I'm going to get it right up about here where the arm is and switch over to rotate to the E key and rotate that down. And you can see now it's beginning to kind of crumple down into the armpit. So before we do that, perhaps let's go ahead and move that in some more. I think that's okay. Yep. And so I'm not trying to get each one perfect as I go just yet. I just want to get stuff adjusted close first. And you can reset your pivot whenever you need to. And you go back to the modeling toolkit and set that back to off whenever you're dealing with the torso or the head and you know you have both sides selected. It's usually a little bit of a safer bet. There's the bottom of the chin right there. And right up here, you'll see that is the top of the head. And we'll model a head here after a little bit, but this is going to be okay for right now. From the side view, we can go ahead and grab this. Oops, grab the vertices for the head. And there's a forward neck lean right here. So you'll see the neck leans forward with the head and with the chin over the top of the sternum where the throat is. So try not to have a stiff neck. So all these are going to be slowly but surely turned into curves and arcs as you're fitting this to the image planes. So grab these pieces here, R scale in just a little bit, grab the back of the neck right there. And from here, we can start using the soft select tool. So we have symmetry we've looked at in their tool setting. Above it is soft select. And soft select shortcut is B. So if I hit B, you'll see there's a hot menu roll off from red, yellow, and goes out to a bright yellow being the least or the most influence, going off to a darker color to fading. So what that does is if I grab a vertex and hold down B and middle mouse wheel and slide the middle mouse wheel left to right. It's going to make it more and less influence. Let me turn off the X-ray mode for just a moment. So I'll let you see what that does. Let's do it on a separate model over here for just a second. So I'll grab this. Go to vertex mode, and you'll see if I go B, I just have one vertex selected, right? Now if I hold down B, a middle mouse to the right has a greater soft select influence, soft fall off. And now what happens is as I move it, it influences the color, the brighter the color closer to that vertex point. It gives you this nice soft bendy control over it. And this is really powerful, really great having soft select. It's like the Move brush and ZBrush and some of the other Move topological brushes that you see in other sculpting packages. Probably have the same thing in Maya sculpting package as well as in blenders. So that's just how the soft select works. So we're going to use a lot of soft select on this as we're getting it fitted to the image plane. So we'll go back to X-ray mode here. And let's just get the easy ones first. And if I turn B on and off, you'll see that the checkbox for soft select goes on and off. I usually have it on surface. Sometimes it'll be set to volume, which can grab vertices that are maybe nearby but not directly connected to it. So I usually have it set to surface, which gets the immediate area, but you can switch it between surface and volume. Just play with that and see what works for you. And so right now it's off, and now we can push the curve, the jelly bean shape of the torso. So the rib cage comes forward and leans this way, diagonally. The pelvic bone goes back this way. Right, so we really want to capture that as we're putting these into position. So I'll move this forward here. It's much more narrow from the side view than it is from the front view, or wider from the front. So there we go. And grab the next row. Bring that forward and scale it back just a little bit. And that's coming around nicely. And we can also come back here to the front view. Get it in the middle here and then scale it out just a little bit. So we have that bulk for the scapula and all the muscles in the back, and then that kind of flattening of the area of the chest. You'll see the sternum here gets a lot flatter. So a lot of this is going to go away, and it's going to bulk up back here behind the neck region. And if you get off axis, if you do one, if you turn off the symmetry on accident and forget to turn it back on when you do a limb, you can just delete one half, duplicate special, and reconnect it, which we will do several times throughout the class. So let's get the little point here from the gluteus medius and maximus around where the tailbone is. So bring that, switch over the move, bring that in just a little bit. And then let's get the crotch area fixed up here in the front in particular. So we're going to grab these two. I think I moved them earlier on mine. Yours is probably not quite that messed up. But let's bring them forward. Again, we're trying to keep them relatively even to each other, just for now at least. And down just a little bit. And we can grab this one. Let's go back over to Symmetry, Object X. And let's re-grab that piece. It should get the other side. You just want to double check your symmetries when it's when you want it on or off. You want to have like full control over that. And want to keep this vertical key line that's going to go up underneath the arm, down the side. This is really your center line. So we want to keep that center line centered down the thigh as well, as you're getting this model matched up to the image plane. We'll go to the gluteus medius is the upper part. So we'll get the butt up here, and we're going to bring it in and over just a bit. And some of the parts here in the spine, we can start getting that straight line out, but we'll maybe save that just a little bit. Bring this in a tiny bit here. And let's grab the bottom of the crotch right here, and let's bring that in quite a bit and double check it with the image plane. Same thing in the middle here. Grab the crotch. The crotch is going to be the hardest part to work on. It's notoriously difficult, and so just kind of follow along with what I'm doing. Just do a little bit at a time, and eventually you'll get it just right. If you try and get it perfect in the early stages, it's probably not going to happen. There's just too much going on, and there's too much movement and flex when you test it out in Mixamo. We don't want peaks and valleys. We don't want any zigzags like bouncing up and down around a lot either when you're 3D modeling. So just kind of be cognizant of where your peaks and valleys are. There we go. And that's looking much better. And we can bring that forward here a little bit more. There we go. And bring that back forward a little bit more. Just kind of pretty close, pretty close. I think from the side view, the gluteus maximus, or the comes way down the side of the leg. It's not really up in the crotch region as much. So we'll kind of get to that. So I can kind of relax that portion right there a little bit. We're going to add edge loops in here, and we're going to cut in all of that detail here a little bit later. Okay, grab the side of the pelvic girdle over here. Move this one in. And you could be using the female, but I just don't have the side image plane designed for it yet. You're welcome to draw out a side plane for it. Just haven't gotten to it yet. Here for the neck. Push that in. Go back to X-ray mode. And let's push this whole side where your collarbone's going to be. The clavicle kind of is actually quite a bit underneath the neck. There we go. Let's see how that's looking. Yeah, that's looking a lot better. And then where you have peaks and valleys or severe zigzags, you can kind of relax a lot of that stuff and kind of just mellow it out and bring it in a little at a time. Same thing back here, just bring it in a little at a time. There we go. Going to all the way down the back here. We're going to add some edge loops, but not quite yet. The back of the shoulder, right here, this definitely needs to be bulked out quite a bit. Same thing up here. There we go. And this little point right here is a little pointier than we'd want, and I curve that back in a little bit. Looks a little doughy, little chunky monkey. That's all good. Go back to off and bring those in again. Oops. Might be what you're going for. I'm just doing like a really super neutral, like middle of the road, like nothing too specific just quite yet. We'll get there. All right, that's looking okay. Let's get the back of the neck over here. So we'll grab these vertices right here and kind of bulk that out. The move tool. Bring it back here. Grab the base of the neck. This part right here, and check out how much higher up that neck goes. So it really goes way up here, the base of the skull, right about there. And you can see right here where the jaw and yeah, I guess I'll keep X-ray mode on. You see at the base of the skull where it connects up in here, and then one more right here for the bottom of the jaw. Then we can decide, we're going to take this head off, and we're going to we're going to use a sphere to represent the head. So for right now, we're just kind of doing this as a temporary placeholder for the head. But it's good to have that the most basic cylindrical shape kind of figured out for the head as well. It's actually really helpful for your learning an anatomy. Go back, turn symmetry on, X. Curve this down some more. Go to the front, get rid of these points, these little pointy pieces. So maybe grab these ones first, bring them back. Grab the front of the head, bring these forward. You can see down right here. And then maybe these ones got a little too close. We want to try and keep try and keep our quads as evenly spaced as you can to the last minute till you really need to start adding edge loops in, which I think we're just about there with the head. It does need some that extra detail. At this point, if we're going to add the throat and whatnot, it's going to have a little bit more detail. So grab all three of those, bring them down. Don't want the chin too pointy right there. And we cut an edge loop in the middle. Let's go ahead and do that first. So although we're gonna remove this head, just to make sure you know how the connect tool works. Go to edge, and if you select 2 or more edges and hit the connect tool, it's going to pick the middle of those 2 edges, and it's going to create an edge in between them. If you middle mouse drag, it's going to create more or less, left to right. And if you hit enter, that's going to finish the tool. So you can undo that. So what you could do is grab this whole row of edge rings. These are edge rings. They're roughly parallel to each other. Non-contiguous or non-connected edges are called edge rings that are aligned adjacent to each other. So we get the edge rings all the way around the face. You see all those orange lines. Quick marquee drag. Hit connect one time. And you see it's going to pick the middle point of each edge. So you want to watch out for this. These are peaks and valleys, right? So it's going to go up and peak, and then back down a valley and up and peak again. That's okay for now. Hit enter, and then hit R to scale and scale it down flat. Voila, the scale flatten tool. And although we don't want any flattened edges anywhere in the human form, for right now, just to get everything set up, we are okay with these straight edges just to keep everything clean and simple to work with. Turn that back off again. There we go. It's looking pretty good. Just see the back of the shoulders. This guy's got a bit maybe overly muscled for an average person. On the trapezius, that's the traps that are up here. So we can go to the back of the neck here, go to vertex, and you can hop back and forth from the front view and side view on the image plane as well. So you just go to the left when you're working from the back and then switch back over to the front. So that's why I really like how this image plane came out, because it gives a lot of flexibility for how we're looking at the model. And when you click on one side, it's just going to automatically give you your object symmetry and grab the other side. Oh, that did not work at all. It's not grabbing the other side. How about that? Looks like I got off. I must have had it off for a moment, so I have to delete one side and put in the other, looks like. Oh no. Grab these 2. I can scale them. Back off again. 1, 2. Scale them out from each other. W, move them up, and this one here. Bring it up and scale them out from each other. So that's the back of the neck. Right, and as it goes towards the front, through the throat. There we go. We can kind of see how that's playing out, and we can see there's a little bit of a peak and valley going on here. So let's just relax all your arcs. As you're doing this, just give yourself some nice little relaxing arcs. Let each edge loop kind of flow in a gentle curve. Try not to, right now at the jawline, maybe use a sharper edge. That might be one of the few areas on the jawline when we add the nose, things like that. And we can also see the shoulders are a bit low. So let's grab all the vertices on the arm. So I'll turn back on my Object X for just a moment. And we'll go in here and grab all of the related vertices right here. And we're going to bring them all up. And maybe all of the neck and sternum region as well. And maybe some more of this middle neck area right here. Just bring them all up. Up. There we go. It's almost even to where the clavicle is. That's looking much better. And go back and marquee drag just the arm again. Now the clavicle collarbone goes out. It's very flat from the front view, and none of the muscles from the pectoral and the deltoid, those muscles all attach in the front. They don't really curve up over the top of the muscle. It's the back muscles, the trapezius muscles, that go over the top of it. So try to be real cognizant of that. Don't push the arm, the shoulder, the deltoid muscles, and the front part of where the pecs are. Don't push them up above that clavicle. You got to leave them flat. And then the back, however, this comes up a lot higher and kind of curves out and bulges out much more than the front. There's a lot more muscles. That's your free floating muscles from the scapula. Okay, so I'm going to hold down D, bring it over. Now I have a little bit more space. And pick my rotational value right up here where the deltoid is, switch over to E, and now I can bring that arm in. You see I have a little bit more space for the deltoid. I can switch over to Move tool, bring it up a little, back over to E again to my rotate, and rotate it down a little more. You see it's starting to crunch. inside the armpit, that's okay. So you do a little at a time, adjust it, a little at a time, adjust it. I wouldn't do it in one big shot. It just gets really messy really quickly, and you don't want all these vertices pushing into each other quite too much. So another thing we could do is maybe scale it down just a bit. So let me reset the pivot on there. Oh, that's a soft select. Whoops. Reset the pivot. There we go. Go back to vertex, grab those vertices, reset the pivot. Oh, that's symmetry. Pivot's up here. Move settings, pivot. So there's 3 resets in there, and I missed all of them. Hold down D, bring it back over. There you go. R to scale. This time you see it's not quite centered up because the thumb's sticking out. So what we can do is go D again, move that really close to the middle, R, and scale it in a little bit more on those T axes. And then rotate it back down around. So it's a little bit skinny, but it'll be a little bit easier to deal with. It's not too bulky to start with, and we can always add some bulk later as we go. And I had my symmetry turned off. So let's go ahead and tackle that now. So let's go to the front view and right click, go to faces, marquee drag across right up to the center line. You can turn on your grid snap so you can kind of see. Don't cross that middle pivot line. I'll grab all of them and I'm going to hit delete on the keyboard. Right click, go to object mode. You see my pivot still down here. If it's not, go ahead and hold down D and X and snap that pivot to the ground. And you can also do that in the perspective view to make sure that pivot is, you can see the arrows going on the black lines here on the Z front and back axis and the red arrow on the X axis, left to right axis. So that is good. And let's also do some housekeeping. Let's go to the channel box. You can see the splits and everything in there, so we can freeze transforms, delete the history. You see, if I undo that, you see I had scaled it up a little bit, 1.197, so we scaled it up to the image planes. So when we freeze it, that goes back to 1, and you have the inputs going in here, and then we can delete all the inputs. So that kind of cleans it up a bit. Let's also save it. So file, save scene as. I will typically do some iterations every now and then. You can add some names into the naming convention if you do some major heavy lifting on the modeling or rigging or animation side. You can kind of add those in as you go. And so we're getting pretty close to a decent cage on here where we can start adding edge loops in. But that shoulder region, just like we did with the crotch, you know, it takes a bit of finessing. It takes some time. It's not quite as easy and straightforward. But let's mirror this so that we can work with the 2 sides. So that's go to object mode, edit, duplicate special, pull up the settings box, make sure it's still the same where you left it last time, copy with the -1 on the x-axis, left to right, hit apply. There's the 2 sides, close that, marquee drag both, combine them into a single mesh, isolate for just a moment to hide the image planes and everything, and just remembering if I smooth it, it may not show there's a hole in the middle, but you can just barely see a little sharp line here. If I go to vertex mode, if I grab a vertex and move it, it will indeed show you that it's not welded, it's not sealed up yet, right? So now let's go ahead and grab all those vertices, edit mesh merge, make sure your thresholds defaulted, usually 0.01 should work at the scale, hit apply, merge. Click on a vertex again. And yeah, and you just click. Remember, if there's 2 shared spaces, you just do a single click. It's going to pick one or the other, and you can wiggle back and forth. If you marquee drag, however, if you go like this, then and there's 2 there, it'll grab them both. So it's a single click to see if there's more than one going on there. And you can release back out of there. And I'm not sure this image plane is perfect, where it puts the gluteus maximus and as opposed to the front where the thighs are on here. But it's close enough for now. Not going to sweat it too much. All right, so that's we're going to fix the shoulders, we're going to fix the face and all that good stuff. But before we do that, let's look at how to model the head and the hand. That's probably pretty good for now. Again, you can isolate it and hit 3 and soften it up. We'll bulk out those deltoids. We're going to deal with the gluteus medius, gluteus maximus, refine the neck some more. But let's do the hand and the face and the foot and get the detail in there. And then we can go do some sculpting and get it a little bit better.